In this video today, we're going to be talking about ego versus spirit and why understanding the difference between the two will help you live a healthier, more fulfilled, happy, and peaceful life. And really understanding this distinction between ego and spirit, between what's false and what's real, is really going to bring a profound change to your life when you begin to embody these principles and when you start living them out. So let's first talk about the ego. The ego essentially is who you think you are at this moment. So if we look at your mental state, your emotional state, your personality, your likes, your dislikes, your physical body, all of these things are part of the ego. And you could even go as far as saying the physical world, is also part of the ego. So we have to understand that in order to awaken, in order to come into awakening, we have to realize that who you think you are is not actually who you are. Who you are is really beyond the ego. It is beyond the physical body. It is beyond your psychology. It's beyond your likes, your dislikes, your thoughts, your mind. All of these things that you identify with on a daily basis is the ego. And the whole process of spiritual awakening is to disidentify from the ego and is to wake up essentially to who you are, because who you are is beyond all of those things. So this is really helpful when we look at people dealing with anxiety struggles or stress, or they're overwhelmed, or maybe they're going through a physical ailment, or they're dealing with something physically, or whatever it may be, to realize that you are not your thoughts, you are not your mind, you are not the physical body. All of those things are essentially an illusion, that it starts to free you. You become freer from not being entrapped in identification in this body, with your mind, with circumstances going on in your life. All of those things, when you begin to awaken spiritually, are kind of laid aside. And what is ultimately real will then start to flourish, will start to come about. But because the ego has put these barriers up to who you essentially are, you're almost like locked into this identity. And to really break free, if you will, to release the chains of the ego, the way to do that is through awareness. It's through understanding and having spiritual knowledge that who you are cannot be contained to a physical body, to a personality, to your likes, your dislikes, your mind, your thoughts. All of those things are part of ego identification. So if you are totally identified with the ego, then you don't really know yourself outside of that. You don't know who you truly are, which is frustrating, and why so many people are suffering in the world today. A lot of the world's suffering is really it really comes from their own mental projection out onto the world, and part of that projection is the identification of who they think that they are, and they're really not that person. Yes, temporarily you may be experiencing that person, you may be experiencing a body, but it's and that's okay. To understand that, I mean, in some sense you are, but in another sense you're not. You're actually the awareness experiencing all of those things. And when we start to make that distinction, there's like a separation that happens between ego, and then automatically you start to begin to come into the spirit. You start to come into who you are, which is eternally at peace, which is beyond suffering, which is beyond all of the things in this physical world. And the next step in our evolutionary process of mankind is to awaken out of the mind-made sense of self, which is the ego, and into the spirit. And that's where we begin to ascend, we begin to free ourselves from the chains of this physical world. So in a practical sense, someone dealing with anxiety, overthinking, stress, all of those sort of things, even depression, you can loosen that. You can start to free yourself from that by simply understanding that you are the awareness behind the thoughts, behind the mind. And this will help you feel better in your life, feel better in your body, and so on. So we don't need to go too far into spirit, who you essentially are, because when we start to label things, when we start to mentally label like what a spirit is or what it looks like or how we identify with that, you can almost kind of lose this sense of, you can lose the essence of it. So it needs to be like remained as just spaciousness or awareness, kind of like terms that don't really point to like something, but rather to, it's just an openness, it's just an awareness, it's a spaciousness. And that is who you are. You are beyond all of the things of the world that you think that you are. You're actually beyond it. So maybe next time you're going, let's say you're dealing with anxiety or stress, bring in the idea that, okay, I'm going through this. Maybe you feel it in your body, you're tense, or your mind's racing, or you're stressed out, whatever it may be, you're uncomfortable. Take a step back and see, okay, I am not my thoughts. I am not these feelings. I am not even this body, but rather I'm the awareness of it. So when you start to do that, you kind of give yourself space from those things. And what ends up happening is that your mind starts to calm down. You start to become more relaxed. And you can try this right now. You can just give this a shot and just see for yourself. And you will feel more relaxed. You will feel more at peace because you're like not engulfed in it anymore. You're starting to separate yourself from it. So that observation of it, your thoughts, your mind, I am not that, but I am this. I am the awareness of that, and I am here. And you'll feel more at peace. You'll feel more relaxed. So I invite you to try that. I invite you to start bringing it into your life. If there's one thing that you can start to do when it comes to spiritual awakening and to awakening to who you are, is to start by disidentifying from your mind. You don't have to go to the body yet, but you can go to the mind, and you can just start by saying, I am not my thoughts. I am not the narrative in my mind or what's going on in my head. I am not the stress or overwhelm or panic or fear or depression. None of those things are ultimately who I am. I am the awareness behind that. And stay there. In the practice, the spiritual practice, your spiritual practice then becomes becoming the awareness behind the mind, coming into truth, because that ultimately is truth. Who you are cannot be contained to a physical or a personality or a thing, but you are in essence the awareness behind the mind, which can observe it. So you can experience this right now. This is experiential. You can come into that knowing rather quickly. And how you do that is that by, you can't be both of them. So you can't be the awareness and the thoughts, because how can you be your thoughts or your mind if there's a part of you that can be aware of it? So you're almost like the light that shines on it. So that's an important concept to understand and to embody, because people may think, well, I am my mind, like I have thoughts, I am my thoughts or whatever. But how can you be if you can observe it? That's the thing. It's like saying like, I'm my hand. Okay, yeah, my hand is here. I can definitely feel it, just like your mind. Like, yes, you have a mind, you have thoughts, you have feelings, and so on. But like, am I my hand? That wouldn't make much sense. So you can use that example with your mind. So start there when it comes to understanding the difference between ego and spirit, start with your mind. So I hope this video was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.